Here, here. Cola.
Thank you, Sir John. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship. This is an issue close to the hearts of many of my constituents in Wimbledon and a key reason why I have the honour and privilege of representing them in Parliament today. We all know, almost all of us know, that the Tories' botched Brexit deal has been a disaster for our country. They should hang their heads in shame, as should the previous leader of the Labour Party, who, amongst various failings, whipped his party in favour of triggering Article 50, firing the starting pistol on our leaving the EU, without any thought as to what form of that exit might take. And let's not forget the role of the member for Clacton and his band of bickering reform buddies, who, along with Trump and Putin, long advocated this hugely damaging, deeply unpatriotic act of self-harm, tearing up Churchill's roadmap that sought to place the UK at the heart of Europe, the behest of their idols in the Kremlin and now the White House. The signatories of this petition are, of course, right to point out that Brexit has failed to deliver any tangible benefits. All it's done is burden businesses with red tape, restrict opportunities for young people and weaken our economy. However, this debate should not be about the past, but the future. How do we now get out of the mess caused by the mendacity of reform, the opportunism of the Conservative Party, the dogma of the Northern Ireland Unionists and the weakness of the previous Labour leadership? But if the government is serious about growing the economy and Britain regaining its global economic, cultural and political prominence, it must begin by meaningfully re-engaging with Europe. The EU is still our closest trading partner, accounting for 42% of our exports in 2023. Yet the Conservative Brexit deal erected unnecessary trade barriers, creating expensive red tape that's holding back British firms, especially small businesses, costing our economy millions in lost exports. However, whilst the current government talks big on growth, it is failing to deliver. As I said in the Chamber last November, the Chancellor's so-called budget for growth didn't do what it said on the tin, but kicked that very can down the road, although perhaps I should have said into the gutter. Closer ties with the EU is the fastest way to kickstart growth. But whilst the government continues to tie itself up with various red lines, it leaves itself with precious little room to negotiate. A youth mobility scheme with the EU would be a crucial first step forward. It is ludicrous that the government refuses to consider it. The current arrangement is not only harming our economy, but also denying our young people life-enhancing experiences. Furthermore, we will rejoin Erasmus+. The UK's exit from this programme has deprived students of valuable opportunities to study, learn and live in Europe, preventing young people from experiencing the cultural, professional benefits of living and working in not just EU states, but the many non-EU countries in the scheme as well. We also need to start talking to the EU about joining the PEM and then the Customs Union, as that would cut much of the red tape currently hampering our exporters. By doing so, we would remove unnecessary barriers, boost exports and lower the cost of imports, providing much-needed relief to businesses and consumers alike. Admittedly, joining the Customs Union would preclude us signing trade deals of our own. But given the experience thus far, the disadvantageous ones struck with Australia and New Zealand, that would be no bad thing, especially with Trump now raising the prospect of us agreeing one with the US, which, on all the evidence thus far, will doubtless benefit him far more than us. The cultural impact of Brexit has been equally damaging to the UK. Britain is a global cultural leader, with our actors, artists and musicians renowned worldwide. However, Brexit has made it significantly harder for them to tour Europe due to expensive visas and excessive paperwork. The Lib Dems will push for cost-free, paper-free, short-term travel for UK artists and their support staff. We must also rejoin the EU's Creative Europe programme to ensure British culture continues to thrive on the international stage. As I've outlined, if we want to restore Britain's place in the world, we must meaningfully re-engage with Europe. However, I do not advocate rejoining the EU overnight. The damage caused by Brexit is not only economic, but also social. We all remember the friction it caused within families and communities and between the regions and countries of the UK. Yes, we must eventually rejoin the EU, but we can only do so by bringing the country, not just a wafer thin majority, with us. Whilst any party that won an election on a mandate to rejoin the EU would walk into the subsequent negotiations naked, with no means of avoiding a hard deal. Admittedly, it is highly unlikely we will ever be able to rejoin on the favourable terms we once had and have now forsaken, It's critical we negotiate from a position of strength, as Tony Blair's advocated, and do not go into any talks with a begging bowl, merely asking to rejoin. That's why the Lib Dems have set out a clear, pragmatic roadmap to rebuilding our ties with the EU. First by rejoining European agencies and programmes, then by negotiating a customs union and then the single market. These steps will help restore Britain's prosperity, repair the damage caused by Brexit and bring back some of the opportunities we lost. The message from this petition is clear. The British people want a better future. They see the failure of Brexit and understand that our country's prosperity, security and influence depended on closer ties with Europe. The Conservative government wrecked our relationship with the EU. The new Labour government refuses to take necessary steps to repair it. The government must do what is right for the British public and not just run scared of the member for Clacton and the rest of his quarrelsome ragbag of little Europeans and cheerleaders for Trump and Putin. We are part of Europe, and one day, I have no doubt, we will rejoin the EU and regain our position at its heart, just as Winston Churchill advocated. Until that day, we must work tirelessly towards fostering ever closer cooperation by breaking free from the red lines by which this government has tied itself and bound itself so unnecessarily. Thank you.
Matthews.